The final planes leaving Afghanistan this week provided a tragically poetic end to the 20-year war. It was civilian planes turned into missiles that essentially started our war in Afghanistan.
And for a Madison woman, her career started on 9/11 as well. Jamie Perez shares her story of transformation.
September 11th, 2001, a day that still brings Lisa Arkin to tears.
Can't believe it's 20 years ago because it still feels like yesterday.
Arkin was in New York City on one of the darkest days in U.S. history, a day where close to 3,000 people lost their lives.
I mean, I saw things that I still, shudder to think about, and I walked miles uptown smelling the smoke of death and devastation.
At the time, Arkin was working as a story editor for HBO and Showtime. But on the day the planes crashed into the Twin Towers,
I had jury duty, which was, the first time I'd ever had jury duty as a college graduate.
Headed in the direction of the World Trade Center, her world also came crashing down.
Like every New Yorker, it's a day that I will never forget.
The images, the smell, the devastation she witnessed that day left her feeling powerless.
Realized I just couldn't go back to making movies. It was this acute sense of just complete loss of control, this complete sense of powerlessness. And I had the sense that if only I'd been a doctor, if I'd had this really defined skill set, I would have had more to give.
At the same time she was making movies, Arkin would also take actors to the Children's Hospital after work and provide care and joy to the kids who, at the time, had an incurable disease.
I had started volunteering with children with cystic fibrosis at a hospital downtown, which was the biggest cystic fibrosis center in New York.
Realizing how much more she and others got out of this volunteer work, she never wanted to feel helpless again.
I called my dad and I said, I have good news and I have bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? And he said, good news, please. And I said, well, I just got promoted, so that's a good thing. And he said, well, that's good. What's the bad news? And I said, I think I'm going to quit my job and go to medical school.
That thought became reality. Arkin has now been working with children and their families at UW Health for the past 5 years.
Here I am 20 years later. I've never looked back. I feel like medicine is the greatest profession.
Arkin views it as fate, even though it took a tragedy to realize it. Getting to help people every day, never forgetting, but never letting herself feel helpless again.
But I think when you feel inspired, following your dream and your passion, there's no end to what we can do.
In Madison, Jamie Perez, News 3 Now.
Dr. Arkin said if there's one thing she learned from 9/11, it's that thinking outside of ourselves and for the greater good of humanity can pull us through anything.